Good evening and welcome to the 56th Annual Delaware Teacher of the Year Program Ceremony. Thank you, Voya Financial, for the generous support that has made this evening possible. Tonight we celebrate 20 outstanding educators who represent the passionate and talented teachers working in public schools across our state. Each of these 20 teachers was nominated by his or her school district or the Delaware Charter School Network. One will be named the 2020 Delaware Teacher of the Year and serve as the first state's nominee for the 2020 National Teacher of the Year program. But first, let's meet our 20 nominees. From the Appoquinimink School District, Appoquinimink High School mathematics teacher Stephen Landry. Stephen is an enthusiastic, compassionate, and engaging teacher, says one colleague. I find myself baffled by his natural ability to relate to his students and successfully engage them in a subject that many would typically find challenging or even unexciting. It is a task that most spend their entire careers trying to accomplish, yet Stephen has managed to do so effortlessly.
I just love kids. I love being hopefully a positive influence on them as much as I can. Coaching is another thing I really enjoy. I volunteer for our softball team, and that's just an immense joyous part of my day. I'm a big believer in getting involved with the schools. I kind of look at it as the more I get involved, the more I'm going to enjoy every part about it. I know sometimes the 90-minute blocks kind of get like Groundhog Day-ish sometimes, where you're kind of doing very similar things each year. Especially myself, I've been teaching the same prep for 9 straight years, so that can happen. But the other things that I do, the dances, the sporting events that I go to, the plays, just being able to see those students in those different lights, I also think it fosters and helps the relationship that I have with students because they see that I'm invested more than just a test score, more than just how you're doing in math class. Don't get me wrong, those are definitely big parts of my job, but I also like them to know that I'm there to see them as the well-rounded student and the well-rounded person. My goal would be for them to graduate the most well-rounded person and student that they can be.
From the Brandywine School District, Concord High School vocal music teacher Lauren Conrad. A former student said her empathetic capacities are boundless, and having a deep understanding of what students genuinely need to feel grounded in their singing abilities and to succeed, she leads focus rehearsals in which students feel safe to be vulnerable in their music making. This liberty to be emotionally vulnerable creates strong bonds throughout the choir.
Music was my passion my whole life. Both of my parents were musicians, and I loved singing. I became a performance major in college, and then from there, I was asked by the most significant human in my life at that time, Dr. Head, if I had ever thought about being a teacher. And I think I probably looked at him with a crazy face and was like, of course not. I'm a singer. But I loved working with students. And I got the opportunity when I decided to apply for the education degree for a master's program. And that was the start of what became the most important part of my life and has been for the last 14 years. Teaching high school is what I'm supposed to do. Working with kids from all different backgrounds, from everywhere you can imagine, in the 3 high schools that I've had the opportunity to teach in, has been incredible. Music is the catalyst, and it is the icing and the glue that holds all of these students together. It brings these kids who would never typically talk to one another into the same space and become a family, become important to each other, and then all of a sudden they help each other outside of the room, and it is the most amazing thing I have ever seen. That is why I'm a teacher. Watching kids learn how to be great human beings is why I became a teacher. So I hope to keep doing this for a really long time. And I get to do what I love with music in the process.
From the Caesarani School District, Caesarani High School physical education teacher Sabra Collins. Colleagues praise Sabra for her lessons, teaching style, and classroom management, all while leading 70-plus students. One credited her for assistance she provided her since she started her own career, saying Sabra mentored me and helped me become the very best teacher I could be. She did this not only to help me, but to help our students get the most out of the class.
My inspiration for becoming a physical education teacher were some of my negative experiences that I had in the past. I was always picked last for any game and activity. I was always the last person finished with my run. I just did not have a very positive learning experience with physical education. I love sports. I participated in sports all through high school and college and very successful at them, but I just really did not have a good PE experience. In college, I decided maybe I should start making some changes because it's very important for students' life, their overall life and well-being, that they have physical education. So now I'm able to promote lifelong fitness and healthy living all through physical education, but in a positive way, and help students to find their confidence and to be happy with where they're at fitness-wise and then where they could also be in the future. So I love that I have this opportunity to reach out to so many students every single day and empower them to be positive and happy with who they are.
From the Cape Henlopen School District, Shields Elementary, English as a second language teacher, Brennan Clarke. A former administrator praised Clarke for his passion to get our students to achieve to their full potential. He was able to successfully engage every student from a wide variety of backgrounds in challenging activities while making learning fun and exciting. In addition, he went above and beyond to reaching out to families so they became active participants in their child's instructional program, and he kept everyone informed of each child's progress.
And I think that's what we do as teachers. We do a lot to empower our students, whether it's through math, social studies, English, art, sciences, music. It's what we do to empower our students on a daily basis. For instance, how we can empower our students to learn how to read and write, to express themselves through a written mode, or how we can empower them to see the world around them through numbers or through mathematical concepts, or how we can encourage them and empower them to create music and art to share with the world, to make it a better place. It's what we do as teachers that really impacts our students and can help make our communities a much better place. For example, as an English teacher who works a lot with immigrants and immigrant families, helping students learn another language so that they can express their own identity and express the knowledge that they have in their heads so that we can better understand them and that they can better express themselves. It's a really important part of the job. One aspect that I think that makes me a good teacher is my relationships with my students and my ability to empathize with who they are, where they come from, what they might be experiencing in their hearts and minds at any given moment. For example, coming to a new country is a very scary thing at times, whether you're a child or an adult, whether you're just traveling, you're there for a long time permanently. And having traveled and worked overseas in several different countries, I feel like that experience gave me a lot of ability to empathize with what my students and their families go through, so that when they come into school, when they come into my classroom, I can understand their needs, I can understand their frustrations, and I can help them celebrate the successes that they have, things that I might have gone through as a learner of second languages myself. And so it's those things that help make stronger connections with students, that ability to empathize, that ability to not only be a teacher, but to be a friend and to be someone who you can talk to in times of need.
From the Capital School District, Eastover Elementary mathematics specialist, Erica Ann Richard. Richard's principal describes her as compassionate beyond measure. She seeks to build relationships that bridge gaps for students. She is a champion for all students in her care and beyond, adding that she is also always supporting for adults in the building and district. She is a cheerleader and thought partner, always helping people to see the opportunities in every situation.
My inspiration for being a teacher came from my family, but also the teachers that I had growing up. They were strength, stability, and constant for me. I grew up as a child in the military. My dad was in the Coast Guard, so we moved around from time to time. Being with my teachers each day, they are the ones who ensured that I could be a learner, that I could be confident in myself, to dream big, and to always try my best to succeed. That's one of the reasons why I became a teacher. The other reason, of course, is because of the students. The students are my heartbeat every single day. Each day I go into that classroom, I know it's going to be a new day, a fresh start to the day, a fresh start to learning. They're the reasons why I'm a teacher.
From the Christiana School District, Shoe Meadow Middle School English Language Arts teacher, Lindsey Muldoon. Says a colleague, she is a teacher that every student dreams to have, a teacher who instills confidence when you don't have confidence in yourself, a teacher who sets high expectations for every person in the room, a teacher who knows every person in the room on a deep and personal level, and a teacher who, to put it simply, identifies as a teacher in every aspect of her life.
What solidified me becoming a teacher was during my middle school experience. I just never really felt like I fit in. I always did really well academically, but I was just socially awkward, and it was hard for me to try to navigate middle school. And I really just wanted to be that student that went into her classes, did my work, and then kind of became invisible. I never had any confidence in myself at all. And I had this amazing 8th grade teacher. Ironically, it was in math, and I really struggled with math. And she just created this environment in her classroom that made me want to go to her class every day. It wasn't about the content. And yes, I became more open to math after that, but it wasn't even about that. It was just, she always made me feel better than when I came into her class. And she gave me those little boosts of confidence. And I still carry that with me today. I still lack confidence in myself at times, and I always go back to that classroom experience.
From the Colonial School District, Colonial Early Education Program teacher, Rebecca Louise Vitelli. It is Rebecca's heartfelt joy, sincere compassion, and genuine love of children that make her classroom such an enriching place to learn, said her former special education coordinator, who also praised Rebecca's seemingly effortless abilities to facilitate children's play within a carefully engineered, rich learning environment while individually addressing the complex needs of her students with great efficiency.
I was that child who loved to learn. I didn't always love school. School was honestly a huge source of stress and anxiety for me. I always felt I had to be that perfect student to be liked and to get the grades I wanted. And for so long, school became this perfectionist performance, less about loving to learn and being okay with taking risks and making mistakes in the process. But I've always loved children, and especially working with our youngest students, which is ultimately what inspired me to be a preschool teacher. But even during my pre-service years, working in some of the classrooms and seeing our youngest children dreading school, feeling nervous and anxious and having that pressure, it made me sad. It truly made me think that something had to change. And I thought, well, who better to help be part of that change than me? Someone who could empathize with them. Someone who knows that feeling of loving to learn, but not always loving school. And so this is why my classroom looks and feels the way it does. My goal is to make learning exciting and meaningful for my students, and I want them to want to be there. I want to form strong relationships with my families and students, but also have them make powerful connections with one another. I want them to feel at home and feel as if we're a family. I want them to feel that they can be their true selves and know that they're safe, loved, connected, and appreciated. I want them to know that there's no perfect or one way to act in a classroom. And I want them to take chances, make mistakes, get messy, be silly, and have fun, and to enjoy the process of learning. And as teachers, we have the power to make our students love learning, love school, and love themselves. And this is why I teach, and this is why I'm truly passionate about this profession. It's one of the only jobs where every single person you meet is an opportunity to instill hope, joy, and confidence.
From the Delaware Charter School Network, Coomba Academy mathematics teacher, Kayla Sweet. One mother whose son struggled with math since kindergarten said Sweet was key to the strong progress he made in 6th grade, moving up 2.5 years in grade level proficiency in 9 months. Kayla met him where he was and helped him to excel, the mother said. She always kept in contact with me regarding his progress and made sure it was a partnership between us both.
Growing up in a military family caused me to move a lot. I went to school in Japan, Las Vegas, Virginia, and a few other places. I had the opportunity to experience, as a student, how different education could be based off of where you lived. I've also had the opportunity to experience how different education can be as a teacher. So before moving to Delaware, I taught in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My first day teaching ever, I had a class of 40 students who all failed the year before. And while it was a really challenging experience as a first-year teacher, it was also the experience that keeps me grounded in this work today. So every one of my kids wanted to learn and had dreams and goals, and many just didn't have a lot of the same opportunities that students 10 miles away had. In fact, the life expectancy in North Tulsa was 13 years lower than in South Tulsa. It's my job to not only provide kids with a quality education, but also lift up their voices. We know that one of the biggest factors in a child's trajectory is having a quality teacher 3 years in a row. I know that if students like Laurel, Kevin, Jatana from Tulsa had the opportunity to attend Kumba, the school I work at in Delaware, their trajectory would be incredibly different. The work we do inside the classroom each day matters and does make a difference. I've always known that teaching was what I was meant to do. I believe it's my job as an educator to work to provide every single student with access to an excellent education.
From the Delmar School District, Delmar High School English Language Arts teacher, Donna Huston. One mother said her two children, who have very different learning styles, both thrived in Donna's class. She said her son finally had confidence in a subject that for many years caused self-doubt and long days of struggling, while her daughter was challenged and held accountable by Donna, causing her learning to soar.
I didn't always know that I wanted to be a teacher. Sure, I played school a lot when I was a child, but I also used my stuffed animals to play veterinarian, and I was pretty certain I had a future in acting at one point. Later, when I started college, I thought I wanted to major in accounting. After working for an accountant briefly and nearly being slaughtered by a calculus class, I realized this was not for me either. I went back to my longest love, which is reading, and decided to share this love with others. Not only do I love to read, but I also love talking about what I've read. And I did just that for 4 years with a few hundred seventh graders. Then I developed a bit of an is the grass greener in another profession syndrome, and I questioned my future. I decided to step way out of my comfort zone and accepted a job in manufacturing sales. I had to humble myself with an entry-level position answering the phone to start. After just a few months, I was promoted to sales, and about a year later, I was promoted to team leader. This role required me to mentor my department members and help them hone their sales skills. Sounds kind of like teaching, right? Then I found myself in charge of selling a product that none of the other sales team really knew much about, and I ended up leading a workshop on this product. My colleagues teased me about my flashcard game and vocabulary wall, but I think they secretly loved it. Well, here I was, teaching again. Soon after this, I realized that while I may indeed be capable of doing something else, being a teacher is really who I am in my heart.
From the Indian River School District, Millsboro Middle instrumental music teacher Arthur Henry. A colleague praised Henry for working to ensure that students from all socioeconomic backgrounds are part of his classes. All students are encouraged to try band and evaluate the experience. This flexibility and the belief that all students can learn and all students can play music shows his passion as both a teacher and an artist, she said.
Because I had so many people that gave to me, that spent time working with me, that I felt I needed to be able to give back. I also love working with kids. I love spending time with them. I love seeing their aha moments where something just makes sense a little bit more than it had, if it's their instrument or reading music or something like that. And I wanted to be able to give back in order to pay it forward, if you will. And I think one of the reasons why what makes me a good teacher is that I'm able to relate to the kids on a different level. It's not just about, you're going to play your instrument and you're going to be the best player in the world. That's not what it's about. It's about seeing these kids grow. It's about trying to help them through, especially through middle school, which is what I teach, through those awkward years, and trying to help them find their way, and helping them know that there is safety in the band room, that they can come and whatever's going on, they're going to be okay. They can talk about it either with me or with their classmates, and there's sort of a family environment in my room. I believe that that's why the kids enjoy coming back to band, and I think that's why there's such a good response in the band.
From the Lake Forest School District, Lake Forest High School social studies teacher Christina Hughes-Gallo. Christina wears many hats, including mentor, educator, parent, counselor, and advocate. Most important to her is to ensure her students succeed. Says one colleague, "In our building, our kids do not come from a whole lot, but Christina provides them with everything they need. Not only does she tirelessly work after hours to make sure that her students get the information they need to be successful in the classroom, but she also makes sure that she is at the forefront of their successes in life."
My first day with Jobs for Delaware graduates was the first day of school, and my very first day in the classroom as a teacher. It was actually the first day in a high school classroom since I graduated from high school. My ideas of what a teacher was included someone who stood at the front of the classroom, delivering information, handing out an occasional worksheet, and throwing in a test or a quiz somewhere in between. But what I quickly realized was that true teaching means spending more time in the middle of the classroom among students, allowing your students to become the teachers, and that sometimes you are relied upon to teach and experience with them the tough lessons of real life, seeing them as more than just students, but as people. It became important for me, for my students to know that I cared, not just about their education, but about them as individuals. Education goes beyond teaching about wars or novels or mathematical lessons to actual lessons about moral character, work ethic, and respect. I want my students to know that they are missed when they are not there, that they are important, and that they matter.
From the Laurel School District, Laurel Elementary first grade teacher Donna Sava. One mother, who also is a teacher, credits Donna for changing the academic trajectory of her son, who had a challenging kindergarten experience in another school before being placed in her first grade classroom. The little boy who cried every single morning now cried at the end of the school year because it was over. The little boy who was so far behind in reading that he would need intense interventions in kindergarten has read to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classes. The little boy who shut down when reading now reads everything he gets his hands on. The mom who felt like she had failed as a mom and as a teacher now feels indebted to Miss Sava.
So we were there in New Orleans for just about a year or so, and I got the news that my dad had passed away. And so it just was an awakening, and I decided, it's time to get back to where my family is on the East Coast. So I had a little girl, and I was pregnant, and we moved east. So I thought, okay, it's time to find something that I really want to stick with. And with the help, and now by then I had my other daughter, and with the help of my husband and my mother, I went back to school. And I thought, wow, what a great career, teaching, right? Perfect for a mom, perfect, summers off. But so went back for teaching and just absolutely loved it. Really fell in love with teaching. I like everything about it. I love starting the year. I love meeting my kids every year. They help me grow. They help me become who I am as a teacher each year. And it's funny, at the end of each year, I say goodbye to them, but they're still an extension of my family. So years later, I'm still teaching. So when I tell my story, I always like to think about that, not why I became a teacher, but how teaching found me. And I have thought about it and reflected and thought, well, why didn't I go to teaching right after college? But I think teaching came to me at just the right time in my life. And so here I am, still teaching, still loving it. And I go back and I think, well, I was going to set the world on fire with my designs, but I am setting little minds on fire. so they can set their worlds on fire. And that's pretty much my story.
From the Milford School District, Morris Early Childhood Center kindergarten teacher Jaime Hill. A mother of a former student who had medical challenges called Jaime one of those once-in-a-lifetime teachers who you hope and pray your child will somehow become lucky enough to get another of. She has the perfect balance of love, care, and concern while still ensuring her children were going to learn boundaries and how to choose appropriate behavior. My daughter needed Jaime that year. I needed Jaime that year, and now my daughter and I both have the confidence each year to get through whatever comes our way.
This is probably going to sound so cliche, but what brings me back every year is knowing in my heart that there are kids that need me. I'm truly going to make a difference in the lives of children, and that is something that I really haven't come to appreciate until the last few years of my career. I remember sitting in a meeting with several staff members at our school, and we were discussing a student that had just been registered. He was going to be placed in our classroom. He had just been removed from his home for neglect. He was placed in foster care, and he was going to start the next week. It's important for my co-teacher and I to know his story, but not really important to know. We like to make it a best practice for kiddos coming in to get to know them and how they're going to react in our environment before making a judgment on what we think is going to happen. The first week, it was clear that he was completely emotionally detached from everything. He was very isolated, kind of in his own space. Whenever my co-teacher and I would try to sit beside him or be near him or interact with him, he was having no parts of that. So it became clear at that time that our main focus was not academics at this point with him. Our main focus was going to be building quality relationship with him and building that trust, something that he had probably never experienced. It was rough. It was a rough few weeks, but I remember the moment. And I remember he gets out the door a few steps and he stopped dead in his tracks. And I remember thinking, oh no, what's gonna happen? He stopped, he turned around, and he rushed back into the room and wrapped his arms around the waist of my co-teacher in a full-on bear hug. And it was in that moment that I knew I had witnessed part of his wall that he had built around himself came tumbling down. What a moment. And it's moments just like that that bring me back every year. It's moments like that that I hold in my heart and remind me why I do what I do.
From the Newcastle County Vocational Technical School District, mathematics teacher Anthony Webb. A former student said she refers to Webb as her math dad. Although he may not currently be a teacher on my schedule, I continue to visit his classroom every day. My math dad uses the most effective teaching strategies and gives great advice, she said. This guy can effectively incorporate math with a good time, and anything math related seems so much easier when he explains it.
Like many of the students that I teach, I really had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. I had a lot of ideas. I thought of being an optometrist, an engineer, police officer, working in finance, and who really knows. It kind of got to the point where I was switching majors every semester, but frankly, those just didn't do anything for me. And I kind of sat back and realized that I wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful to me. So I switched majors, and opportunities just brought me to Delcastle Technical High School, where I found that there really is something tremendously gratifying about playing a part in the lives of so many young people. To be able to write that letter of recommendation that helps them get into college, or to guide them to a choice that leads to career success, or even the little things like making somebody's day just a little bit better. Those are just so meaningful to me. And beyond the impact, it's a tremendous amount of fun to be in the classroom. I mean, what other career do you get to talk about content that you love and crack bad jokes all day? I can't find one. So that and being surrounded by a staff of like-minded people who have the same goal as you, and being in a career in technical school, my students get to receive a high-quality education while learning a trade that can lead to a great career. I mean, what can really be better than that? And that's why I do it.
From the Polytech School District, Polytech High Electrical Trades Technology teacher Nick Post. Nick is understanding and compassionate with an amiable and unassuming disposition, said one father who credited Nick for the support he has given his son, who has a disability. I have watched my son's confidence grow while working on his various projects at school and his ability to help me with renovations at home.
Well, I guess you could say that I became a teacher in not the traditional pathway. I started out as an electrician, and honestly, I got a call one day who called me and said, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, I work at Del Tech. I heard that you would make a great teacher, and I need somebody to teach a class for me tomorrow." I thought about it, and I said, sure, why not? I'll try it out. I started the next day, and I continued building a program at Del Tech for electrical apprentices, and I slowly began to realize that this was the coolest thing I'd ever done. Eventually, I moved into Polytech adult education, sheer act of chance. I ended up volunteering or working at a church, helping a church wire a new school. I worked with the parishioners, and so I worked with a group of parishioners for about a week. One of the parishioners came up to me and said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I think you're a great teacher. You taught me how to do so many things this week. Why don't you come teach for us?" So I started with adult ed at Polytech, and then about a year and a half after that, the high school instructor announced his retirement, and I applied for that, and I got the position. And there was a big change between working with adults and kids, and some might be kind of scared of that, like, oh wow, how are you going to work with high school students? But actually, I thought it was even better than working with adults because I'm able to connect with kids, and I'm able to use my personality and get them to understand that I care about them and I care about their success. Really, honestly and truly, the best thing that ever happened to me.
From the Red Clay Consolidated School District, A.I. DuPont High instrumental music teacher Richard F. Weaver III. A student said Weaver is much more than a teacher to his students. He's the person you go to when you need help with homework, when you need to vent, and when you have good news to share. A lot of students at AI live lives that are not easy. Students here face adversity almost every day in and out of school, but Mr. Weaver has become an outlet for many students.
I was very fortunate as a student athlete to be captain of the wrestling team my junior and senior year. One of the crazy parts is I had 3 different head coaches over that time period. I wasn't at AI DuPont in 1995 when they won the state wrestling championship, but here we are 2 years later, and we couldn't have a head coach. The people just didn't want to take over the sport. So Mr. Hogan was a football coach, and he was a teacher at the school. And he said, look, guys, he said, Rich, and talked to the other seniors. He said, I'll take over. I'll bring in some friends to help me coach, but you guys know the moves. You got to run practice. I'll get you in shape, the best shape you've been in your life, but you guys got to run practice. And we had a successful year. We ended up losing the Flight B championship that year, but it was close. Halfway through the year, I was injured, and I spent about a month on the sidelines, but I still went to practice. And Coach Hogan said, come on, Rich, we need you here. I need your help coaching everybody. So I kind of turned into a coach my senior year due to an injury. I had no idea that that would set my life goal into becoming a teacher. I really learned all the behind-the-scenes things from Coach Hogan and Coach Batten and Coach Lasney, and it made me want to do this for a living. So I immediately, decided that I don't want to be a business major anymore. I want to be a music teacher, and that's what I want to do, and that's why I'm here today.
From the Seaford School District, Central Elementary 3rd grade teacher Laura Burke. Laura has a natural gift of inspiring her students to give 100% in the classroom. She produces the highest achievement scores year after year while keeping students engaged and teaching them resiliency. An administrator says her students speak of Mrs. Burke as a nurturer, stating that she always tells us that she loves us. Each year, she enters her classroom with one purpose, and that is to love, nurture, and teach her students to be the best they can be.
I'm passionate about working with children because working with children brings utter and pure joy that no other career anywhere can compare. My mother inspired me to teach because she taught public school for 40 years. I grew up personally witnessing her joy, magic, and completeness from teaching. That is what I wanted in order to be an independent, successful, happy, and joyous adult. I teach because children are our future. Their future is our unwritten history.
From the Smyrna School District, Sunnyside Elementary kindergarten teacher Denise Balcerak, a now 4th grade student, nominated his former kindergarten teacher, saying, "There are so many things that make her a skilled teacher. To be an amazing teacher, you need to be caring, patient, and smart. Miss Balcerak is all of these things and more. She makes learning fun and enjoyable. I remember her encouraging her students to ask questions. I learned that asking questions makes me smarter. This shows that Mrs. Balcerak knows the perfect way to handle children."
Teaching is my second career, but my first love. I was a family crisis therapist or social worker in an elementary school before I became a teacher. I worked with students with social, emotional, and behavioral challenges. I worked with a 1st grade student that needed one-on-one assistance in her classroom. I spent a lot of time in this student's classroom, and that's when I developed a passion for teaching. I loved the environment. I loved the structure, the enthusiasm, and the learning I witnessed in this 1st grade classroom. After spending a lot of time in the classroom, I decided to go back to school myself and work on a master's degree in education. I completed my student teaching in a 1st grade classroom, and I absolutely loved it. After completing student teaching and my master's, I was hired as a long-term substitute in a kindergarten classroom. Yeah, kindergarten. Wow, was that ever challenging? I quickly learned how needy 5-year-olds can be. When I finished my long-term sub position, I remember my sister asking me what grade level I wanted to teach. I replied, anything but kindergarten. I was wore out. Well, guess what? I became a kindergarten teacher and have been teaching and loving kindergarten for the past 9 years. It's both challenging and rewarding to teach kindergarten. I love watching the students grow academically. I love the goosebump moments I get each and every time one of my students begins to read, write, or solve problems. Teaching has made me a better person. I love what I do, and I love who I teach. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Teaching inspires me. I can only hope to inspire others the way my kindergartners have inspired me.
From the Sussex Technical School District, Sussex Tech High mathematics teacher Dantes Collins. A student who called Dantes her teacher, track coach, father figure, mentor, and closest friend, credited him for helping her through the last school year. He was always there for me when he felt things weren't right. I was suffering a lot of depression, medical issues, and suicidal thoughts, and he was there through it all. Without him, my life would have been a mess.
So what inspires me about teaching? Why do I keep teaching after 9 years? I'm still here. The students. My students are amazing. They are phenomenal. They come into my class with different experiences, with a different perspective, with different cultures, with different beliefs, with different levels of understanding, different intellect, but they're all so unique and they're all so beautiful and they're all so amazing. And it's just a wonderful time just interacting with them and learning about them. Oftentimes the relationship that I build with my students are much more than the math content that I teach. I remember one of my students sent me a text message this past year, one of my track athletes who I also had the privilege to teach in math. He sent me a text message and told me Happy Father's Day. And it's moments like that people don't see because they focus on, how much money a teacher makes or the time that we put in, and it's quite an imbalance. But the reward that we receive is not that money, it's not that paycheck, it's that simple text message that we get from a student, or it's that hug that we get from a student, or it's 5 years later when we meet a student that we taught 5 years before the road ended, before they graduated, and they have their own business, or they're working on their own dental degree or law degree. And it's those moments like that that keep me teaching, that keeps me invested in this profession.
And finally, from the Woodbridge School District, Phyllis Wheatley Elementary 4th grade teacher Stephanie Budvarka. The heart, mindset, and dedication that Stephanie brings to the classroom set her apart. As a colleague said, when a teacher genuinely values the contributions of each and every child as important, necessary, and integral to the classroom and communities, we grow children who are not just students, but leaders in their own right.
You're a constant in someone's life every single day. For some of them, you're the first smiling face they see, the first hug they receive. I try to greet my kids every morning by name, a great big hug. How are you doing? How was your night? If they were in a sporting event the night before, ask how it went. They're people, and every encounter that we have with them is an opportunity to either make their day better or make their day worse. And I try really, really hard to make sure that whether it's a positive encounter that I have to have or not, sometimes we have to do those difficult things like address negative behaviors or things like that. But you think about the outcome, and the outcome is that you're trying to teach a child right from wrong. You're trying to encourage them to be a positive, contributing member of society. And the best way to do that is to lead by example and to think about the outcome. And if you think about the outcome in each experience, you'll handle things differently. Your goal isn't to embarrass a child. Your goal isn't to make them feel bad about something wrong they did. It's to teach them that we don't do that. So let's try something different next time. And when you really see kids taking those lessons that you've taught them outside of your classroom and putting them to play either on the playground or in sporting events or things like that, that shows that you're doing the right thing. Our jobs are about so much more than just content. We're role models in these kids' lives, and we're teaching them how to be the future of our country. So I take that very seriously. I'm very passionate about it, and I hope that it shows through in what I do every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored tonight to celebrate these outstanding educators. Congratulations to all 20 teachers, and we thank them for the differences each and every one of them is making in their classrooms, schools, and community.